Apple is now one of the tech giants that we can no longer imagine life without. Although they are lagging behind in AI, all other manufacturers are now taking inspiration from Apple in their design. Well, as one of the most successful companies, it makes sense to copy the big players. But that wasn't always the case. Back in the 90s, Apple was in crisis and almost went bankrupt until Steve Jobs returned to Apple. He saved the company with the iMac G3 and this very iBook. What could this iBook do? Well, let's take a look in this review. Hey everyone! I was recently browsing through my comments all over and noticed that Comic60s, I hope I pronounced it correctly, asked me in a reply whether there would be anything new about PowerPC Macs. And then I thought, why not the iBook G3 Clamshell? Yes, the legendary iBook. It was launched here in 1999 in 2 colors for around $1,599. The iBook was advertised as the iMac to go because, according to Apple, it was aimed for normal home users. And you can see that these 2 computers have something in common when you compare them directly with an iMac from 1998. For pro users at the time, Apple recommended a PowerBook or a PowerMac G3. Steve Jobs did a relatively good job for distinguishing between which computers were for everyone and which were specifically for pros. Because back then, and also still nowadays, many normal customers don't care about what's actually inside the computer. Instead, they care more about what color and form factor it is, laptop or desktop computer. Apple initially released the iBook in 2 colors and later added more variants with faster processors and everything. I have the Blueberry from 1999 and the Indigo from 2000 here. And when we're talking about specifications, there's no way around it. The first models, such as the Blueberry shown here or the Tangerine one, came with a 300 MHz PowerPC G3 chip that would be the same chip found in the iMac, PowerBook G3, PowerMac, and in a way also in the Nintendo GameCube, the Wii and the Wii U. It also has 32 MB of RAM, although you could order 64 MB and expand it to up to 576 MB. Yeah, I'm talking about megabytes, not gigabytes like on modern systems. It had a 3.3 or 6 GB hard drive with a 12.1 inch 800 by 600 pixel display powered by an ATI Rage mobility with 2 to 8 MB of VRAM. Okay, the graphics card wasn't exactly a 3D marvel, but that wasn't really what it was designed for. Later models such as the Graphite have a 366 MHz chip, and the Indigo and Key Lime models also have a 366 MHz chip and Firewire, but more on connectivity later in the video. At the end of the clamshell era, Apple released special editions with 466 MHz CPUs, which are now extremely rare. Nevertheless, there was one advantage to the choice of these components: no fan, quiet operation. And after the clamshells came the so-called snow iBooks, which were completely white. Well, they were also based on the design of the iPod, which was released at the same time as the snow iBooks. And various models of the clamshells can already communicate with the iPod via Firewire. As mentioned earlier, the Indigo, Keyline and Special Edition iBooks had a Firewire port, which was still faster than USB 1.1 or even 2.0. Otherwise, all of these iBooks, except for the Special Editions, had a CD-ROM drive, 56K modem, USB 1.1, Ethernet and a headphone jack or a composite output for connecting it to the television or a monitor. It can be charged using the yo-yo charger, which can output 45 watts via this strange connector. Yeah, MagSafe didn't exist back then. And the battery life is at about 6 hours. However, something that every iBook model could have as an option, and which thrilled the entire audience, was Wi-Fi. Yeah, Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi where you can connect your phone to the internet. Yes, Steve Jobs demonstrated this with a hula hoop, showing that there are really no cables attached to it. If you don't believe me, see for yourself. How much better can you market a product? You have to understand that Wi-Fi was brand new at the time, and the iBook was the first device available for the average consumer that could be equipped with Wi-Fi. Apple then offered AirPod cards for $99, which could be installed in the iBook to enable Wi-Fi. More specifically, Wi-Fi B with 11 megabits, which had just come out in 1999. Yeah, in 11 megabits. The websites weren't too large at the time. Only if your internet provider didn't give you the 11 megabits. But you know what I mean. This card is installed under the keyboard, which is pretty easy to do. Then the base station came out, which allowed you to use this AirPod card for wireless internet. I mean, sure, anyone looking at it now takes it for granted that Wi-Fi is standard nowadays, but back then that wasn't the case. Then, together with the design of the device, it really became a cult object for the early 2000s. I haven't even talked about that here yet. It has lots of curves, bright color accents, is partially transparent, and is a laptop that stood out from the crowd. Many people refer to it as a toilet seat, although I don't know where that claim comes from. Apple products weren't that bad at the time. And this one even had a carrying handle. Today's Macs don't. I'm just saying. You can also find a scene like this in the movie Good Advice or in an episode of Sex and the City. But you can also see an iBook clamshell in Coyote Ugly and in many other movies. But do you notice something? This iBook is a real eye-catcher. Together with the iMac G3 at the time, Steve Jobs wanted to revive Apple after Nothing But Nonsense came out in the 90s without him. And I think many of you are now wondering whether these things are still useful today. Well, not so much anymore. Even though it has an AirPod card inside, I can't connect it to my modern Wi-Fi. Maybe it's because it's too new, but the iBook isn't the only one. My PSP can't connect to my Wi-Fi either. Sure, the iBook can also be operated via Ethernet or modem, but no one wants to wait what feels like 5 hours for a website to load. Unfortunately, I don't know of any games for PowerPC Macs, but it probably won't run very well because it only has a simple graphics card inside it. At least you can write text on it, and the keyboard is definitely fun to use. It feels soft yet responsive and is one of the best knob keyboards ever. Apple sold about 1.2 million of these clamshells, which was a hit for Apple at the time, considering it wasn't a pro laptop. I personally think that the design of it is just super beautiful, and somehow it's also a timeless design, right? So what do you think about these iBooks? Well, and if you want to see more of me, subscribing would be a good idea, right? But anyway, I'll just say, we'll see us